Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Gladiator 2. I had a chance to see it in theaters, and I've been waiting a little bit to try to make this review for it because I came out of the theater really liking the movie, and I very much enjoyed it, and I 100% would recommend it to people. And I've seen that a lot of people online were kind of more mixed on it, so I've taken my time to really think about it, think things through. I watched a couple of reviews, and I'm now ready to give you guys my full 100% honest opinion on this. Let's dive into this, shall we?
Modern movie review.
Okay, so right off the bat, I do want to go ahead and say, even after watching reviews, because my main reason for watching a bunch of reviews were, there were a lot of elements of this movie that I was, so indifferent about. There would be times where, Denzel Washington's character would say things that just don't line up with the times of this movie. And then there's also, a lot of the people are making very, similar accents and stuff like that. And then once again, Denzel Washington is, speaking in a completely different accent. And, there's just a lot of moments like this where it's just, I could see why this would take people out of the film. But for the most part, I feel like everybody felt like they belonged in this movie, and I think that that's one of the main things for me personally is I don't know a whole lot about Roman times or whatever, if I'm being totally honest with you. I'm a big history nerd, but a lot of my historical stuff that I care about comes more around I want to say probably almost 1,000 years after ancient Rome. So a lot of the big history stuff that I know a lot about and I care a lot about happened way later in history. So for me personally, historical accuracy does not bother me that much with this movie. But that being said, I can understand why it would bother some people. There's specifically a line Denzel Washington at one point says, "Hose him down." Hoses definitely didn't exist. Hoses definitely weren't going to be a thing for a super duper long period of time. But it's something that stayed in the movie because the way that Denzel Washington said it was awesome and it made sense and it kind of helped the scene flow progressively into the next sequence. And I think that that's a lot of the things. A lot of people who I've seen complaining about the historical accuracy of this movie, I think fail to realize the fact that they don't expect casual viewers to pick out these tiny little intricate details and be like, this wouldn't be possible. Oh, they couldn't possibly do this. Oh, this is ancient times. There's no way they could have done these specific things. And I think that this is one of those examples of you need to suspend your disbelief for a little bit. This is a movie that's fictionalized about what it potentially would have looked like for gladiators that existed. And I think a lot of people who are taking this to be 100%, oh my God, this is something that takes place in ancient history and expecting, everything to be 100% accurate. I think you guys have just slightly higher expectations than you should have. Personally, part of the reason I did really like this movie, last year, Ridley Scott, the same exact director, directed the movie Napoleon. And I don't know if you guys know this about me. I personally do not like making videos that are going to be relatively negative. Last year, the first negative video I have ever made on this channel was my review for Napoleon because I thought that movie was so terrible. And like I said, I'm a history nerd. That's the time of history that I care a lot about, that I know a lot about. And so after seeing that movie, I had low expectations for this one. I'm going to be totally honest. I was Ridley Scott did really bad last year. And a lot of people were like, well, this is a sequel to Gladiator. Yeah, cool. Gladiator came out forever ago. His most recent work has showed me that I don't think he's going to do a good job with this movie, and I was so happy to be proven wrong. I think that the direction of this movie is fantastic. I think that the story here is really interesting. I like the way that we have Pedro Pascal's character, who kind of in one way is a main character. You can pay attention to him. Some of the stuff that he's doing is really interesting. I like the way that you can tell that he's a general who really hates death. He really does not like the fact that he's going around and killing a bunch of people. And, he's so proud to be, Rome. And he's so, patriotic and, proud of the country that he lives in. And he's willing to fight for it. He's willing to die for it. But he's just kind of the lines of what makes Rome special to him is being blurred right now. And I think that the way that his character is portrayed in this movie is absolutely fantastic. I think everything they did with Pedro Pascal is absolutely incredible. And then we have another one of the main characters here, Denzel Washington's character, who is somebody who kind of shows some of the great parts of Rome, where you could start off as a slave and you can kind of buy your own freedom. You could get to a point where you yourself are buying slaves, and then you could potentially become somebody who's in a position of power. You could go from zero to hero. You can kind of gain that wealth. And I think that the way that they portray his character is really interesting. I like the fact that he doesn't really have any morals whatsoever. He's 100% a wild card player. He does everything for himself. And it is really interesting because there are parts of the movies where you would kind of expect his character to do a certain thing, and he just doesn't do that because it does not benefit him enough, and he has his own motives and stuff. And I think that that's something that particularly makes his character really interesting, is he always has a plan. And when there are things going on that kind of seems okay, somebody's gonna have to do some spur of the moment thing, he just does it. Like, he just does whatever he feels like doing, and it's awesome. I think that his character has so much gravitas and so much layers, and it's something that only an actor of Denzel Washington's, like, level could potentially play a character like this, and he nails it. He absolutely hits it out of the park. It is so good. Once again, he's showing why he's one of the greatest actors of all time. And then the actual full main character of this movie, Paul Mescal. I feel like there's a lot of things that they tried doing with this character that were kind of interesting. I feel like none of them fully hit the mark. None of them are fully as exciting as you would want it to be. I think that for the most part, Paul Mescal is doing an incredible job with the acting here. I think that he does a good job portraying a lot of range. In the beginning of the movie, the opening sequence, we get to see him like with his romantic partner. We get to see him in like more of a calm situation. He's somebody who's leading a general. He's general of an army, and the way that he's leading is very compassionate. He's somebody who's on the front lines with his men. He's somebody who's there for them. He's somebody who's very kind and considerate, and he's somebody who has a lot of like honor, and I think that that is really interesting. And the way that they show him being one of the most like respectful people and being just such a kind and compassionate soul really does a good job of making it so that when he flips literally just like 10-15 minutes into the movie to being absolutely rageful and just dead silent all the time, it is incredible. I think that Paul Mescal does an incredible job with this, and I like the fact that because his character is somebody who is quiet for a big portion of this movie, he has to do a lot of acting just with his facial expressions and with his body language, and I think that Paul Mescal does an incredible job with it. His fight sequences are excellent. I will say there are a couple of moments in some of the fight sequences where for some reason the camera, like, instead of like focusing on him while they're doing this fight, they'll like get to a point where it's like, okay, Paul Mescal is kind of being bested a little bit, and then the camera will go from looking at Paul Mescal to looking at the reactions of the people behind him, and the people behind him will be like, oh my god, and then we'll cut back and Paul Mescal has the upper hand in this battle, and it's like, what happened there? Why did we not see what he was doing? What, like, this would have been a really integral part of the fight that we definitely would want to see, and for some reason they just kind of kept doing that. And then there would be a couple of other moments where it's like the battle is like focused on him, and then for some reason it'll just be slightly out of focus, and I'm like, this seems deliberate. Like, this is definitely something they're intending to do, and there's just so many different action sequences throughout this movie where it's like everything seems to be like working out perfectly, and then we'll get to like the height of the battle, and then for some reason the camera's just not there, and I'm like, this is weird. I think it only happened like 2 or 3 times, but it was enough times for me to catch the fact that this kept happening, and it was really throwing me off. So I wasn't a big fan of that. But that being said, the acting for the most part is incredible. The action, whenever it is fully focused on the main characters, is incredible. They do a Navy battle in the Coliseum. I think that entire sequence is incredible. I like the fact that they put sharks in there, even though that's one of the main things that they're getting attacked for like historical accuracy. Supposedly some people will have like research and they're like, yeah, they have put water in the Coliseum, but they never did enough to do this, and oh my god, there were never sharks in the water and stuff like that. But I'm like, just the visuals of them having a Navy battle in the middle of this Coliseum is so epic. And like I said, when I did my out of theater reaction for this movie, I think that this is stuff that the Romans would be doing if they could do it. So it perfectly lived up to expectations. I think that it was fantastic. And I think that it creates just such a perfect spectacle that you want to go and see in theaters. So overall, I really like this movie. I think it has some really good twists at the end. I think that a lot of the death sequences are fantastic. And I love the way that Denzel Washington's character goes in this movie. I feel like there's a couple of directions that they take him in later in the movie that it's kind of shocking, and then I kind of like the way that the A plot, the B plot, and the C plot start to connect, and then eventually A plot and B plot do connect, and it doesn't happen the way you would expect it to happen. And I feel like they do a really good job of just kind of like keeping things under wraps long enough for you to get this big shocking reveal, and then it's nice, it's satisfying, and then we just continue on with the story. And I think it's good. I think that the flow, the pace of this movie was fantastic. And overall, I really enjoyed it. So, that being said, to give this movie a final rating on a scale of 1 to 100, I gave this movie a solid 82. I really enjoyed it. Like I mentioned, though, the main character is not as interesting or well written as I think he potentially could have been. There are some reveals that happen in this movie that don't have the most satisfying conclusions. But that being said, I did for the most part enjoy this movie. I think that the spectacle of it is fantastic. And if you're somebody who wants to go see an incredible action movie, there's so much fun action sequences to enjoy with this film. I really, really dug it. But yeah, that being said, that was it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. And if you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe. And I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow, bow, bow.